Okay, welcome back, guys. So, first of all, I'd like to give a big shout out to Scott Denton for helping me out with resources to kind of help fix this issue I'm about to explain to you guys. Also, a big shout out to Laura from OUTGANG. I'm going to be dropping the tutorial link on the YouTube description. So do make sure to check them out. So let's get to it. So the issue I was having was that Zbrush kind of resetted my scene scale. So for the exports, the entire thing was completely reset. So I was having the issue whereby if I export out this any mesh from this, the scale was just way smaller than it should be. Initially, when I was exporting out my working on this project and then exporting out my model into Maya, the scene scale was kind of accurate. Anything I exported in was kind of importing in here with the correct scale, but suddenly I noticed it was no longer importing in with the correct scale. So let me just kind of show you guys what I mean. So I was trying to export out this lacing in here. So whenever I exported, probably it was a bug or something. So whenever I exported, let's make sure the export setting is set correctly. So import and exports, turn off group, so something else, then turn on smooth normals. So whenever I did an export for this, let's just export this out. So I'll just drop this in here. So I'll just do replace. So if I go back into Maya and I'm trying to import that file in here, so is this boot rope? No, I don't want that. Great. Now how do I get out of this? Okay. So if I kind of import this in here, I drag and drop this in here, you would notice that this is the file I just imported. You notice that it kind of shrunk. It's way smaller than it should be, like way smaller than it should be. So this was the issue I was kind of having. Initially, when I was exporting the other assets, they were placed exactly where they should be. So I've already fixed that in here already. So initially, when I was exporting out my assets, they were exporting with the correct scale, but suddenly they were no longer importing with the correct scale. So how did I go about fixing that? So after watching those tutorials, I dropped in the description. So I kind of made a I made a cube like so. So I made a new cube like so. So if I should move this out of the way, or rather let me just go to the side view with wireframe turned on. You can see how this is kind of, it's almost like my model is inside this bounding box, which is the cube. So the next thing I did was to export out this cube. So I exported out this cube. So let me just export this as OBJ. So I already have it in here as a cube already. So let me just export this as OBJ again and replace. So the next thing I did was to create a new file, a new ZBrush file. But first things first, first thing you want to do before doing anything else is to come under save as, then save this as a ZTL file. So I already have this saved as a ZTL file already here as backup, because I'm going to be using this ZTL file. So make sure you kind of save out your entire file as ZTL file. Then I'm going to close this. No, I don't want to save. Okay, so in here now, I opened up Zbrush again. So opening up Zbrush again, I will just come in here and let's click on this default project. No. So I have a default project in here now. So the next I'm going to do is to come in here. Okay, there is no, okay, there are no subdivision levels on this. That's fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my cube on top of this. So I'll just go to import. But first of all, keep in mind, I come to export settings, you can see, keep in mind the scale in here. So this is like the default scale in here. So as soon as I import the cube I exported out. So let me just import the cube I exported out. I'm going to import this on top of this sphere in here. So this is the cube here. So as soon as I import that in, if I show you the floor, let's turn off perspective view and scroll down. Under the export settings, you can see how the scale actually changes in here now. So this is the scale I'm going to be using now to kind of make sure everything is working correctly as it should in whenever I kind of do exports from Maya to from ZBrush to Maya rather. Okay, so now next I'm going to do is to come making sure I'm still on this sub tool of the cube. I'll come to Z plugin and I'll come to sub tool master and I'll click on multi append. So click on this multi append. So now I'm going to append that ZTL file we saved out. So I have to have a backup for this. So let me just use the backup. So I'm just click on open. So the idea for doing this is to make sure this ZTL file, this Z2 we're just importing in of our entire project kind of takes up the unit scale of this cube inside of ZBrush. I don't know if that makes sense, but that will make sense in a bit. So it's still kind of loading up. Let's just give this a moment to kind of load everything up in our scene. So just click OK to ask if HD geometry will be lost from appended subtools. Just click OK. Now there are a few downsides to this though. Probably we'll just do a few testing in there and then figure out what works best for us. But I'm just going to try my best to kind of show you guys some of the downsides to this. So this is probably the first time I'm having this issue, because usually when working with previous versions, I didn't encounter this issue. Just exportation was just seamless. But regardless, so let's just use this information. Let's just use this trick here to just kind of fix it. So I'm going to push this cube out of this, undo that, turn off symmetry. I'll just push this cube to the side. So right off the bat, you notice that we can't really see our model in here. Everything is turned off for now. So let's just go to the main body instead. So now, as soon as I turn this on, you instantly can't still see it because it's still very small. It's very, very small. It's actually very small. So if I hit F on the keyboard, then turn off, let me just turn off this cube for now and make sure this main body, main urban body is selected. Now hit F on the keyboard. Now I can see this. The only issue there now is that it's extremely small. You can see how small it is. You can see how small it is compared to our cube, which is, if I turn on the cube now side by side, it's kind of massive. You can see how massive our cube is. So now the only thing now in here now is that so long before you started having these issues, you have already exported out. You've already exported out some of your, some of your model, probably while working, you were exporting out and then trying to bake and figure out how things are working correctly. So me, for the most part, I've already exported out most of my model. So the next thing I'm going to do is that I've already exported out most of my model in their low, like their low poly version, which I have in here in this my Z exports. So most of them are actually in here. Most of them are actually in here. So now the next thing I'm just going to do is to come in here. Let's just demonstrate again and kind of show you guys something else. So let's say let me duplicate this urban body again. I'll just duplicate this sub tool. Then let's work with the duplicate version. This is the duplicate version. With the body the way it is right now, if I should export this out at the lowest subdivision level, which is already at the lowest subdivision level, I should export this out. So let's just use this, let's just replace it with this test urban body, and I click yes. So if you go back to Maya and try to import this, you should be having the same issue. You should be having the same scale issue. So this is it here, test urban body. I should just drag and drop this in here. Now great, we should have adjusted the export setting and turn off group, but that's fine. Let me just combine this in here. So select all of this and then just combine and click delete by type H3. So you can see right off the bat is in there, it's actually in there, but the scale is still not correct. Scale is still not correct. So now how do we actually fix that? So let me just delete that. So now a way to kind of fix that is just to replace what you already have in there. Now I encounter some issues though with the layers in there. I encounter some issues with the layers because the layers started acting a bit weird. So probably what I'm going to do first is let's go to the highest subdivision level for this. I'm going to go to the highest subdivision level for this, so we can kind of see our layers in there. So how about the layers in here now? So I'm going to turn off recording for this, turn off recording for that, then create a new layer. Let the recording be in here. So anything that's recording will just be in here in this new layer. And I'm going to go to the lowest subdivision level. On the lowest subdivision level, which I exported out my base mesh from Maya, is the lowest subdivision level. So if I turn on display heads up display poly counts, you notice that I'm having faces at 32,000. I'm having 32,000 faces. So in here also the active point 32,000. So which kind of matches that which kind of matches what we have in Maya. So making sure that is the correct subdivision level, I'm importing this back in. So I go to imports. Then this is the original. This is the original body I exported out when everything was actually working correctly. So I'm going to click on open. So as soon as I do that, now you notice that the model completely disappears. Now if I hit F on the keyboard right off the bat, notice now that our scale now matches that of Zbrush of Maya. You know, we had initially had our cube in here. So let's bring in our cube again, and then just push this to the side. You notice now that we're having the same scale now in there. So we have the same scale now in there. So let's go back to ZBrush. So now in ZBrush, now the issue I was having was that okay, before I explain the issue I was having, let's do a quick export for this. But before we do that, let's make sure we fix the issue we had before. So under preferences, under exports, then under exports, turn off group, and then what you should do is to, if I should export this out now, export this out here. I'll just replace this with the test urban body. Again, I click yes. So just kind of test to make sure everything is working correctly. So if you go back to Maya in here, let me hide this original body I had before. Then this let's import this new body we just exported out now. So we drag and drop this in here. Notice now that selecting it down here, we have accurate. Now we have the accurate scale in there. So this is just a solution I found after watching some videos and reading online, and then big thanks to everyone that was able to provide some content or information that would appear that appears useful for me to kind of figure this out, because this gave me hell yesterday. I've been trying to fix this for a few hours. So a big shout out to Laura and Scott for their amazing tutorial on YouTube, which I'll be dropping the link in description to kind of figure out for you guys to figure out how to use or kind of get a better understanding on how to kind of use Zbrush to kind of fix some of the issues you're having. But if you're looking for a faster solution, it's just a quick way of doing it. It might not be the best optimal way of doing it, but what do I know? It works for me. So now, okay, this is just doing a quick save. So now I just want to talk about the issue you might be encountering. So the idea is just kind of do the same thing for other sub tools you have. For the other sub tools you have in there. So just to do the same thing, just repeat the same process for the other sub tool you have. So now the issue I was having, let's hope the issue does not repeat itself again though. So the idea was that I lost some of my detailing. I lost some of the detailing for my model. So if I should go back to a higher subdivision, let's just crank this up to a higher subdivision level. Just subdividing. So if you notice now, can no longer see the skin pulse detail I had in there anymore. So this is just this is just an issue I encountered. Though my layers are actually in there, but based on the fact that we kind of adjusted the scale, it seems to be an issue with some of the layers I have in there. So if I go to the layers in here, some things will begin to feel or act weird in here. So I think if I should, so focusing on the face now, let's just start from where I have my skin pulse detail in there. If I should turn this off, some things will start acting weird in here. So if I turn off this eyeball, you can see how turning off this eyeball now brings in some of my skin pulse detail, which is kind of weird, because ideally we're not supposed to have details on here when the layer visibility is turned off. But after kind of using this method, kind of get the correct scale, the layers begin to act extremely weird. So now it's off, but it's not visible, which is weird. If I turn this off also, that also becomes visible. If I turn this off also, that also becomes visible. If I turn this off also, that also becomes visible. As you can see in there, most of this becomes visible when I kind of turn things off, except for this lip layer that kind of started acting weird. But now if I kind of put this skin pulse value to a negative value, let's just say I drag this to a negative value, You can see how this kind of intensifies it, even though it's actually off. So now, okay, now it turns on. But just started acting weird though. The value started acting really weird. But that's just one way of fixing the main issue though. So any other issue, you might just have to look for. I think the video description has a solution to kind of bring all of this back in to your model. So that's just a way of kind of getting the scale back in here. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.